Jeff, you're somebody who's done, so many different things at this point in your life. You've been in the tech world at Google, helping to lead the business development team and scale the company to tens of thousands of employees. Then you've also been in the space of, just I guess as a passion, chasing storms and going through that and experiencing all that comes around that type of natural occurrence, and then all the way to building humble brands, which you're working on now. And you've got thousands of stores that now have the products in them, and it's all really natural, good for you, and enabling you to smell good and to feel good and have amazing hygiene. And I think it's something important. Everybody wants to have great products that they put on that are really good for the environment, good for them as well, and very natural, as natural as you can is usually the best. So I'm excited to have you here and to get into your story.
Yeah, Ben. Thanks again for having me on. I really appreciate it. Fun to always share my humble story with you and the listening audience. So thank you.
Awesome. So
Yeah.
Jeff, what made you interested in the world of technology and business initially? Why was that kind of the place you wanted to start?
Well, it's actually funny if you take a step back years
Yeah.
before. In undergrad, I started by studying meteorology. I wanted to be a weatherman. I wanted to be the TV weather guy, right?
Okay.
I feel like now weather is kind of this hip thing. People love it. Twister came out, then the second Twister or Twisters came out. But back then it was kind of this weird niche thing. I was that weird kid in Florida who would come out and watch the thunderstorms roll through the states every summer afternoon where everyone else was running inside. So I wanted to go into weather. And my dad convinced me to not do that. He's like, oh, you may be passionate about it, but you're probably going to, spend your life sitting in a box somewhere and just doing forecasting. And so he convinced me to go down the business route instead. And I'm so happy he did that because it allowed me to pursue my business passion of tech early on in my career. And then later on, as we might discuss later, kind of circle back to weather again. And after I did leave the tech industry, spending time chasing tornadoes in the plains. But yeah, really what got me into it was initially, at least business, and then going into tech was influence from my dad back in the day.
Mhm. So you got into Google at 100 or so employees, and then you helped scale it to tens of thousands.
That's right. We were really small. We had, I think, full-time employees at that point, around 100 or so, something like that. And it was a heck of a ride. And it was funny because back then, beginning in 2002, when I joined, I wasn't sure where it was going to go. No one was, right? We had Ask Jeeves and Lycos and all these other search engines. And I remember I had, people who were very influential in my life from a business perspective at the time coming to me saying, are you sure you're making the right decision here? There are all these other much bigger competitors out there than Google. And I just said, I feel like this is the right team and the right company. And I feel they have the it factor. It's going to go somewhere. And again, I'm very fortunate and happy that I made that decision to go down that path.
Well, you were definitely right there, Jeff. It did go
Yeah.
somewhere. So, you did that. You were at Google for some time. You must have learned some incredible lessons from, just the amount of size of the team you were on to where it ended. How did you scale it that big? How did you help, bring in that kind of amount of people and the quality of people that you needed?
Honestly, we had a couple things going for us. One is we had a very rigorous recruitment process. And so everyone who interviewed the candidates that we're bringing in, everyone had to sign off on that person. If there's one dissenter, unless a great case could be made against that one dissenter, we typically would not bring the person in. So everyone had to be kind of in full alignment. But fortunately, because we were on the radar of so many people, we just had this constant funnel of candidates coming our way. So if we didn't have that funnel of candidates, we probably would have had to have lowered the recruitment bar level and maybe wouldn't have built the company that it became today. But the other thing that I thought was interesting at Google when we were hiring people is oftentimes we wouldn't bring people on board who had a deep set of expertise in that thing we were hiring them for, that area that we're hiring them for. Sometimes we would go outside the box and we would bring people who, were Olympians or kind of amazing in a different area. But we knew that and felt strongly that they could kind of take the passions they had for that other activity that they were in and take the discipline from those other activities and bring them into their time at Google. And so that was nice because we didn't have this company that we created with just a bunch of sameness, right? But we had a lot of diverse people coming in and created this, really kind of beautiful democratic sort of company, at least from a thought process perspective.
So were you always kind of during this time like into natural products, trying to take care of your health? Like, was that something that you were just kind of passionate about and that passion evolved as you went?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been active, and I've worked out, and I've been focused on, kind of supplements and eating well and that sort of thing. So yeah, that's always been a passion of mine. With respect to kind of Google and where I saw the trends going is probably about 10, maybe 15 years prior to, or sorry, Humble rather, with respect to Humble,
Mhm.
um, 10 to 15 years prior to starting Humble, I saw this trend that was happening with, and of course everyone knows about it now, but the better for you food products, right? People really leaning into organic products and ingredients and non-GMO and just kind of better for you products, kind of like newer takes on existing products. But no one really was doing that in the health and beauty space. And so I kind of saw that as something really interesting to think about. And then I tried the products that were out there at the time, and the natural products, and specifically focused on deodorant because I was reading about antiperspirants and how potentially detrimental the aluminum is in antiperspirant. And so tried the natural deodorants that were out there at the time, and none of them worked well for me. And so I just felt there had to be a better way to kind of incorporate the better for you trend with ingredients into the personal care space. And after 6 to 9 months of mixing in my kitchen and using myself as a test bed and giving it to friends and family, I finally had that eureka moment where I had the formula that worked.
So Jeff, you just made this yourself.
I did. Yeah. Yeah. The
Okay.
initial product I made myself. And my thinking was, if I do, and not, I don't want to say anyone can create like a lotion or a soap, right? But they all work to some extent, better or worse. They work pretty well. But deodorant's one of those things where it either works or doesn't work, right? And so I wanted to focus on the one thing that either people are going to love you or hate you, right? Either they're going to smell or they're not going to smell. And then I felt if I did that, then we could kind of branch out from there, and with that loyal customer base, then introduce other products to you. But so the new products we've come out with, we're using formulators and other people to help design those. But you're right, the initial version of our deodorant that we came out with, and really the core to our formula today, is something that I started by mixing in my kitchen years ago and came up with.
It's amazing. So you were just researching online kind of the best ways to replace the perspirant and pretty much just kind of come up with a new formula, and you just researched it and made something and then like, okay, let me go scale this.
Yeah, yeah, and there are a couple of things I was trying to address for it. One would be the sweating, and then the other would be just the body odor. And the reality is, with a natural deodorant, you're never going to completely eliminate the sweat, right? That's what the aluminum does. It blocks the sweat glands. But the problem is, going back to my earlier conversation about better for you products, people at that time didn't realize, which they do know now, that what goes on your body is absorbed, the majority of it is absorbed into your body. So it's as important to put on your body as what you eat. And now we kind of know that. But yeah, that was the path I took, though.
So how did you go about launching this? Were you thinking retail from the beginning, just online? How did you kind of market and get the word out there for Humble Brands?
I started by putting the product out there, putting it onto my website, create a small Amazon account, started selling it in Amazon. And I really thought that was probably the path we were going to take
Mhm.
initially, would be far more D2C, again, both through our website as well as Amazon. And then I thought the kind of secondary part with respect to sales, at least, would be coming from brick and mortar sales. Um, Fortunately, the one company, the marketing company I was working with, had a relationship with the owner and the chain called Erewhon in LA. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but they high end store chain, and they carry a lot of amazing products, and it's where a lot of shoppers go. Shoppers for other retail chains will go to see kind of what trends are happening in the industry, and so he got us in there, and that just kind of blew up our kind of presence in other stores. The awareness was out there, and then really, even fast forward to today, 85% of our sales or so come from brick and mortar sales, and not online sales. So there's still a lot of opportunity to increase the online part, but And for me personally, I always, even as a kid, thought how cool would it be to create something where someone could walk into a store and see it physically on the shelf.
Yeah,
And
that's great.
I've been able to fulfill that dream with Humble.
That's amazing. So why did you want to call it Humble Brands? Was it about the fact that this is not like bare bones, you would say, but like it's all that you need is a better
Yeah,
way
yeah.
to describe it?
Bare bones is a good way to put it, really. It
Hmm.
is. I wanted to create something where you understood every ingredient in the ingredient profile, right? So if we look at the original formula, it was boiled down to the simplest set of ingredients that you understand and truly don't eat it, listening audience, but safe enough to eat, right? Every single ingredient. So we've got cornstarch, we have baking soda, we have beeswax, and we have fractionated coconut oil. And that's it for the basic version. And
Wow.
then we layer on top of that the essential oil blends that we've come up with, very unique to our company. But again, so simple set of ingredients, but ingredients that are still effective, right? So my thinking, when if you look at other products that are out there, even natural deodorants, for example, they have a lot of coloring agents or fillers, preservatives, other additives, things you don't need, and a lot of ingredients that I don't even know why they're in there, frankly, and I don't understand what they are. So it really was to try to create this pull together this humble set of ingredients, simplest set of ingredients that is still effective and still works, and that really is where Humble came from.
Love that. Has your background being, chasing storms and documenting tornadoes, like has that kind of come into play with Humble Brands? Like how has that affected things and what you built?
Let's see. I mean, I would say it was the genesis of the company and why I started the company
Hmm.
came from back in my days in storm chasing. So when I was out there chasing, I love a good road trip. I've always enjoyed travel. And when you're chasing, you're out there for weeks at a time, a lot of times. So it's just me, buddy of mine, in our truck on the road, right? And so we're chasing, you're staying in these crazy cheap motels and places that you normally would never spend time in just because they're kind of flyover states, but beautiful areas though, actually, but just places you would oftentimes never go to. Your life boils down to, a car and a little bag, a little go bag, and that's about it. Um, and that's what really kind of got me going and thought about kind of starting, Humble. Like there's got to be a way to simplify our life in so many different ways because I'm having a great time living this kind of life and just doing this. And that was really also part of the seed that started Humble.
Mm. It's amazing. So how did you kind of go from the initial retail chain to the kind of distribution you have today? I mean, you've got incredible distribution. How did you handle manufacturing that, scaling all of it? Because with retail first, you've got some substantial costs you're going to have to handle.
Yeah, yeah. So it's a really good question. And what most companies in our space, in the food space, they use co-packers, they use co-manufacturers, but they don't
Mhm,
make their own stuff. And we have our own facility. We make all of our own deodorant, and
mhm,
the majority of our sales. We have a lot of other products, but a lot of our sales come from deodorant at our company-owned facility that I bought and we built up years ago. Probably that the facility we probably bought 4 or 5 years ago, but again, started the company about 10 years ago. What happened though is the first batch of product I had created was created by or made by a co-manufacturer for me.
mm.
And then as I had a couple of the larger retail chains come in and say, hey, we want to bring this in. Can you get us, I forgot what the number is, 3 or 4 thousand units in 3 weeks? And I went back to my manufacturer and said, hey, can we get this in 3 weeks? And they said, sure, we could do it in 13 weeks. And I'm like, well, no, they want 3 weeks. So I went back to the retailer and they said, 3 weeks or nothing. So really, I said, okay, I don't want to lose this opportunity with this or these couple of first retailers that have come to us. And so I convinced a friend of mine. At that point, I had left the Bay Area and moved to Taos, New Mexico when all of this started, and convinced a friend of mine who had also been in tech with me and was going through a bit of a transition. And he came out to Taos and he helped me build the manufacturing team there. And at first, I mean, it was a very manual process from manually pouring to manually labeling. We had rows of tables of people who were just manually labeling our products. And, I knew that wouldn't last. That was definitely not sustainable. I didn't want it to be. I felt if my company stayed the size where we could do everything manually, then it was going to be a failure, right? We had to go to a point where we had to automate things. And then fast forward to now, we've ended up buying this amazing facility there. We've got automated manufacturing capabilities, automated labeling lines, and so. But yeah, at first though, that was the real push to kind of go into manufacturing and do it. It was because of the first few retail orders we got.
Yeah, it's amazing you were able to build that up yourself, and kind of when you really were instrumental in actually making it all happen, too. Yeah. That's impressive, and you did it within that time frame. In the end, you got it all done for the retailers.
We did, yeah.
Great.
Yep. And they're happy with us.
Mm-hmm.
We're still with us, at least, or we're still with them. So I assume they're happy with what we did back then.
It sounds like it. Jeff, has your tech background really come into play with what you're building? I mean, I wouldn't say it's a tech company, but I mean, tech is involved in every aspect of everything today, business, and there's so many automation tools. And you mentioned you have automated manufacturing. Has that been really important to have this tech background in what you do?
I mean, you certainly don't have to have a tech background to do what we're doing. I think one of the key things that I was able to bring with me from tech, and especially, and I wasn't just at Netscape. Prior to that, I was or at Google. Prior to that, I was at Netscape, and between Netscape and Google, I had started this online company called Gloss.com, where we sold beauty products 25 years ago online, and people hadn't really done that. But through all of my experiences in tech, from Netscape to Humble, I constantly saw this can-do attitude. Right? This, like, if there's a problem there, let's figure out how to solve this thing. And I remember, for example, one time when I was at Google, and we were talking about the Google Book project. And Larry Page, our co-founder, we were at this meeting. He turned to us and said, well, why don't we just print every book that's ever been published anytime in the world? And we first thought it was a joke, right? Like, yeah, right. And he said, no, really, let's figure out a way to do it. Right? And that's a huge, audacious to set out to do, but we set out to do it. And I assume they're probably still scanning. I don't know, but it was a huge project, but we still did it. And when I saw that, I realized, man, if we can make decisions like that, and granted at Google we could pour a ton of money into projects like that, but if we can make decisions like that, then in a much smaller way, I can kind of incorporate that thinking and that thought process into what we're doing at Humble.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big picture thinking process right there. Like, that's shoot for the moon.
That's right.
Yeah. But not everyone thinks like that. So it's good that you try to push it big.
True.
Yeah.
How about you? Have you incorporated some of that into your company as well?
Oh, 100%. You got to go for as big as you possibly can. And now we're trying to do some stuff in space. So we're really going there. Like, quite literally.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. But when you think about like standing out today in the market, Jeff, like you've got like you're a better for you product. Like you have this category where you're better for you, which is one thing. And I'm sure people buy, of course, because of that and because it's natural. But you're also associated with all different types of nonprofits that you support through what you do. How important are those things, like 1% for the planet and everything that comes with that? How important is that for the end consumer choice? Based on what you've seen?
It's funny. We really put that message out there of what we're doing for 1% and the organizations we're involved with for 1%. How much does that really drive someone's buying decision in the end? It's hard to say. It's hard to really kind of quantify that. But I know it's something we want to do as a company. It's important to us and our ethos as a company to do that. The one of the organizations that we've donated a lot of money to is this Charity Water. They go and do developing countries and dig wells and provide clean water for people who otherwise would have just relied on dirty surface water. And it's amazing how many people die in these countries every year by drinking that water. It's something we take for granted here in the U.S. We turn the spigot on and we've got clean water. And so it's definitely important for us. And so whatever, even if what we're doing and the causes that we're working with motivate one and people hear about what we're doing, if it motivates one or two more people to help with that cause, there's that ripple effect, right? And so then people will see what they're doing and so on and so forth. Then it means that whatever we're doing and whatever message we put out there has been a success.
Mm-hmm. So it just aligns with your brand values. So it makes sense to do just in general. And that makes that I get it for sure. Yeah. So what's kind of your vision now? Because you mentioned you have all different types of products, but it's all built around this concept. of better for you, of natural, of very few ingredients that you like you mentioned, you can even potentially eat. How do you see this expanding going forward, and what are categories you're most interested in now?
Well, I've been explicitly told by my marketing and product development team, don't talk about new stuff, right? Because in the past, sometimes I have, and they've slapped me around for doing that. So I'm going to be careful in talking about that. What I can say is we do have some fun new developments coming out, both about in the next 6 months and then a few months after that in the deodorant space. So really excited about that. Um, One of the things that I'm passionate about that I would love to lean into more over time would be packaging, though. And we've already spent a lot of time and energy making sure that our ingredients are sustainable and we've got the right sourcing associated with them and the right certifications and kind of checking those certifications where we can to make sure that they're legitimate. But we launched a couple of years ago our paperboard deodorant packaging, and it's 100% biodegradable. And a lot of companies that have similar type of packaging, there's still a bit of greenwashing going on with them because they're still, even if it's a paper packaging, they're still lined with the plastic on the inside to prevent the oils from leaching out, whereas ours are lined with a biodegradable silica, so the oils won't leach out, right? So we definitely want to make sure that we're kind of providing what we're telling the customer we're providing. Our plastic packaged deodorant is made with 80% post-consumer recycled plastic. But I would love to get to a point, we're still selling a lot of the plastic product. I would love to get to a point where bioplastics were a viable option, where we can get this kind of bioplastic and make the plastic packaged deodorant that we have out of a bioplastic that is in and of itself 100% biodegradable. We've been looking at that for years. We actually bought a couple 100 pounds of bioplastic pellets a couple of years ago, gave it to the company that makes our deodorant packages for us, and they ran it through their system, and it just didn't work. It came out somewhat deformed. There was a funny smell to it. And then it couldn't really handle the higher temperature pour process during the production because we have to heat our product up before we pour it into the container. So for a whole host of reasons, it didn't work. But we still keep looking and researching, and I keep holding out hope. So, which is kind of a nice segue into every time we come out with a new product. If it's going to be something that's going to require a ton of plastic in the packaging, we either look at a different way to do it or look at a different product.
Yeah.
Just spending time here in Kauai, and I'm sure you spending time in Florida, you see the junk getting washed up on the beaches all the time. And again, whatever we could do to try to minimize that waste and that environmental impact, we want to do it.
Yeah, it's great that you care. And it's important to try to find better solutions for all this stuff, and it means clearly something that's top of mind for you, which is great. And I think it will probably save you money in the long run as well if you can figure out a really good solution, in this category. So how do you kind of look at like just global expansion of all of this? Because there's so many places you can take Humble Brands. I mean, it's really endless, and solving the problem of deodorant, what it does for people is the market's everybody. It's huge. How do you think about kind of just scaling beyond the U.S. and globally?
I early on we thought, oh, let's just go worldwide right away.
Yeah.
The problem with that and the risk associated with that is you lose focus. And we knew the U.S. we had to do well and be successful in the U.S. market and then expand from there. And so while we dipped our toes into some other markets early on, we actually have become one of the best-selling deodorant brands in Taiwan, and I believe it's Iceland or Norway, somewhere up in Northern Europe, through that initial process. Smaller countries there, but that was kind of an exciting first step. But then we decided, let's just really double down and focus on the U.S., which we've done. And I'm really proud of the team and kind of the market penetration that we've made here. And a couple of years ago, we started making a big push into Canada. And typically the Canadian market, from what we're seeing, is about 10% of the size of the U.S. market. So, and we're getting into a lot of the influential retailers up there. And then I would say in the next 1 to 2 years, we're going to start really looking into other parts of the world and figuring out how to expand. And it's probably going to be a combination of working with the right brokers and distributors in those countries, but then also looking at our products and trying to figure out if our products do. Like, for example, we looked at Japan a couple of years ago, and it sounds like not a lot of people in Japan use deodorant the way we like to use deodorant, but deodorant wipes, for example, are a bigger product over there. And so do we look at doing something like that, some sort of humble wipe in Japan? Or do we just take our product and figure out a way to market it to the Japanese? And so we have to figure out, if we were to go down that path, for example, what best way to enter that market. And I'm sure those types of decisions will happen in every new country that we're looking at.
Just the last question I have, Jeff, like, how did your kind of celebrity Jason SKU happen? How did that whole arrangement come about?
It was actually kind of funny. So probably about 4 or 5 years ago, I would say, there was a shop in Albuquerque, and he was doing some filming in that area. And he kept going in the shop and buying our products. And then a few days later, he'd go in and buy it again, and they would call us and get replenishment products. Finally, the owner called us and said, this guy, Jason Momoa, keeps coming in here and buying your products. Maybe there's something there. I don't know what it is, and maybe you should try to reach out to him. And so I knew some people in the entertainment industry and tried to connect with Jason, and nothing really came of that. I figured, oh, well, it is what it is. And then fast forward maybe a year or so later, we got a DM on Instagram directly from him and said, hey, I love your product, love what you're doing. Let's see if we can work together. I'm like, oh, this is interesting. And of course, the first thing is we're thinking, it's probably BS, right? Probably just someone who is impersonating him, pretending to be him. But we did some background research and checked the number he provided and realized, no, it's him. So there's someone else who I've been friends with and have worked with for a number of years, Donovan Frankenreiter, who's a musician, used to be a professional surfer. Now he has his own band, amazing music and musician. And he had met Jason through his own circles. And so the initial call then we had was myself, Donovan, and Jason. And we just talked about, potentially creating something together. He loved our product. And then we just got to know each other, spent some time together here and there, and started working on scent creation. And then, we launched our product this past March, so March 2025. And it was a good year and a half in the making to come out with that product, finding the right scent profile and trying to kind of keep up with Jason and his schedule and getting the new samples sent to him so we can get them under his nose to see what he liked and what he didn't like. And it was a very collaborative process, though. It wasn't a situation where we just came up with something and slapped his name on it. I mean, he would not come out with anything unless it was exactly what he wanted. And we're so excited about the scent in the end. It's called Rock Rose and Cedar. And it is just an amazing scent to the nose.
That's awesome. Well, Jeff, I appreciate you taking the time and doing this. I think you've got a really important and good niche here with Humble Brands. And I really think it's going to scale much further than how much it has, which it already has done a lot, because everybody wants better for you products that are of the kind of quality standard that you've built up over here. And the collaboration you just talked about with Jason is exactly what people are looking for. A couple of years of development of something that people really care about when they make, and you can see that with Humble Brands with your deodorant and other products you made. And so I'm just excited to see what's next. And thanks for coming on.
All right. Thank you, Ben. I really appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.